Hello friends, welcome to Prashant IAS. So friends, in the last class, we have completely discussed about the topic of high courts. So friends, in this class, we will start our discussion with a fresh topic. So as you can see on the screen, the topic of today's class is fundamental duties. Okay, so friends, now let's begin. So friends, first of all, the most basic question is that in which part of the Indian Constitution fundamental duties are given. Okay, so in the previous classes also I have told you many a times that whenever we are studying any topic, so first of all it is our duty to know that where this topic is given in the Constitution of India. Why? Because here we are studying the Constitution of India. So as the topic of today's class is fundamental duties, so now we need to know that where these fundamental duties are given in the Constitution of India, or in which part of the Constitution these fundamental duties are given. So friends, the answer to this question is that fundamental duties are given in part 4 capital A of the Indian Constitution. Okay, so in which part they are given? So they are given in part 4 capital A of the Indian Constitution. Now friends, this part means here we are discussing about part 4 capital A. So this part of the Constitution was actually not present in the original copy of the Constitution. Okay, so original copy of the Constitution means the Constitution which was enacted on 26th of November 1949. So in the previous classes I told you that our Constitution was enacted on 26th of November 1949 and our Constitution was enforced on 26th of January 1950. Okay, so these are two different things. So Constitution was actually enacted on 26th of November 1949, but it was enforced on 26th of January 1950. So we actually celebrate 26th November as the legal day in India, and we celebrate 26th of January as the Republic Day in India. Okay, so original copy of the Constitution means the copy of the Constitution which was actually enacted on 26th of November 1949. So when our Constitution was enacted or when our Constitution was enforced, at that point of time, this part was not present in the Constitution of India. This part was not there in the Constitution of India. But later on, this part was added in the Constitution of India. Okay, so now we need to know that how this part was added in the Constitution of India. So friends, actually what happened, that the government formed a committee known as Sardar Swarn Singh Committee. And what was the work of this committee? The work of this committee was to give recommendations regarding the fundamental duties. So what happened, that Sardar Swarn Singh Committee gave recommendations that in India citizens have fundamental rights. Okay, and some fundamental rights are available to all the people and some fundamental rights are only available to citizens. Okay, but as we are the citizens of India, so being the citizen of India, all the citizens should also be aware that they also have some duties for their countries. Okay, so when you are enjoying rights, then you should also perform some duties. So as the Constitution is providing you the fundamental rights, so the same Constitution should provide fundamental duties to the citizens. Okay, so what happens, that citizens have fundamental rights and citizens enjoy these fundamental rights. Okay, but Sardar Swarn Singh Committee said that as citizens are enjoying fundamental rights, so they should also be given some fundamental duties. Okay, means these are the duties which every citizen of India has to perform to the country. Okay, means fundamental duties means those duties which all the citizens of India have to perform towards the country. Okay, so now Sardar Swarn Singh Committee recommended that as the Constitution of India is giving fundamental rights to the citizens, so the same Constitution should also provide these fundamental duties on the citizens. Okay, so based on the recommendations given by Sardar Swarn Singh Committee, what happened, that the government enacted, means the Parliament of India enacted 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. Okay, what happened that based on the recommendations of Sardar Swarna Singh committee, what Sardar Swarna Singh committee recommended? Sardar Swarna Singh committee recommended that there must be some fundamental duties for the citizens. Okay, and and where these fundamental duties will be written? So Sardar Swarna Singh committee recommended that these duties must be added in the Constitution of India in the form of a separate chapter. For example, there is a dedicated chapter for fundamental rights. So we all know that part 3 of the fundamental right, part 3 of the Indian Constitution guarantees fundamental rights on the people of India. Okay, so similar to that, Sardar Swarna Singh committee recommended that there must be a dedicated part in the Constitution of India which gives these fundamental duties to the citizens. Okay, so based on the recommendation of Sardar Swarna Singh committee, what Parliament of India did, that Parliament of India enacted 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. And by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, Parliament added a new part in the Constitution of India. And that new part was Part 4 capital A. Okay, and what was this part about? So this part was about the fundamental duties of the citizens of India. So friends, now let's move forward. Now friends, after this, the next important question is that from where we have adopted these fundamental duties. Now what does it mean? So actually we have adopted the different provisions of our constitution from different countries. For example, in the initial lectures, in the beginning lectures, I told you that from where we have adopted which thing. So for example friends, we have adopted the fundamental rights from the Constitution of USA. Okay, now similar to that, from where we have adopted these fundamental duties. So friends, the answer to this question is that we have adopted the fundamental duties in our constitution from USSR. Okay, so from where we have adopted these fundamental duties in our constitution. So you can say that, sir, the concept of fundamental duties is taken from USSR in our constitution. Now friends, after this, the next important question is that you can ask that, sir, how many fundamental duties are there in the Constitution of India? Okay, so the next important question is that how many fundamental duties are there in the Constitution of India? And the second next important question is that in which articles of the Indian Constitution these fundamental duties are given. So now you know that in which part of the Indian Constitution fundamental duties are given. So these are given in Part 4 capital A of the Indian Constitution. But we also need to know that in which articles of the Indian Constitution these fundamental duties are given. So friends, actually there are 11 fundamental duties in the Constitution of India. But friends, if I tell you in more detail, then I can tell you that initially when this chapter, means when this part was added in the Constitution of India, means when Part 4 capital A was added in the Constitution of India by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, at that point of time only 10 fundamental duties were added. Okay, so what happened that by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976 only 10 fundamental duties were added. But later on what happened that by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act, okay, by which Constitutional Amendment Act? By 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002, one more fundamental duty was added in this chapter. So currently there are total 11 fundamental duties in the Constitution of India. Okay, now friends, then the next important question is that in which articles of the Indian Constitution these fundamental duties are given. So friends, actually Article 51 capital A, Article 51 capital A deals with all the fundamental duties. So all the fundamental duties are given from Article 51 capital A. So fundamental duties are given under Article 51 capital A of the Indian Constitution from A to K. Okay, so for example, the first fundamental duty is given under A, then the second fundamental duty is given under B, then the third fundamental duty is given under C, okay, and the last and the 11th fundamental duty is given under K. So there are in total 11 fundamental duties. Okay, so we one by one we will discuss about all the fundamental duties, and I will try to explain you the meaning of all the fundamental duties. Now friends, after this, the next important question is that whether these fundamental duties are enforceable in the court of law or not. Okay, so what does it mean when I am saying that whether these fundamental duties are enforceable or not in the court of law? So it simply means that let's suppose there is a person and the name of this person is, let's suppose, Mr. A. Okay, now let's suppose what happened, that there is one fundamental duty given in the Constitution of India. Okay, so we know that all the 11 fundamental duties are given under Article 51 capital A. Okay, and from A to K. Okay, so now let's suppose that there is one fundamental duty, and if this Mr. A has not performed that fundamental duty toward the country, then whether he can be compelled to perform that duty or not. Okay, so it simply means that if this Mr. A is not performing his fundamental duties, then whether he will be punished by the court of law or not. Okay, so enforceable basically means that you can be compelled for doing that thing. Okay, and if you will not do that thing, then court of law will punish you. Okay, so for example, we know that laws are enforceable. So if you will not follow the law, then court can punish you. Okay, so now my question is that whether these fundamental duties are enforceable or not in the court of law. So friends, now I need you to give the answer of this question. So kindly pause the video and give your answer in the comment section, and then I will tell you that whether these duties are enforceable or not. So friends, the answer to this question is that these fundamental duties are actually not enforceable in the court of law. Okay, so it basically means that even if a citizen is not following these fundamental duties, then also he cannot be compelled to follow these fundamental duties. He cannot be forced to follow these fundamental duties. He cannot be punished in the court of law for not performing fundamental duties. Okay, so the first thing is that they are not enforceable in the court of law. But friends, there is one more thing. Now the second thing is that a law can be made, means the parliament can make a law after getting inspiration from these fundamental duties. Okay, for example, let's suppose there is a fundamental duty that we have to safeguard the public property. Okay, we have to safeguard the public property. Okay, so now let's suppose what happened, that the parliament made a law. Okay, now parliament, after getting inspiration from this fundamental duty that the citizens of India have to safeguard the public property. Now parliament made a law that if anyone will harm the public property, or if anyone will try to destroy the public property, then he will be prosecuted in the court of law and he will be punished for that. Okay, now let's suppose what happened, that there was a person, Mr. A. Okay, now Mr. A was a very naughty person. Okay, now he know that this is a fundamental duty. Okay, he know that safeguarding public property is a fundamental duty, but he also knows that this is not enforceable in the court of law. Okay, so what he did, that one day he was going on a street. And there were some street lights. So what he did, that he picked up a stone and he threw it on the street light, and what happened, that the street light got damaged. Okay, but then what happened, that police came to, okay, and there were some CCTV cameras also. So his action was actually recorded in the CCTV cameras. So later on what happened, that police came to the home of Mr. A, and then police arrested Mr. A. So Mr. A told him that, sir, I know that safeguarding public property is a fundamental duty, but you cannot arrest me because these are not enforceable in the court of law. Then police informed that, okay sir, no problem, we also know that fundamental duties are not enforceable in the court of law, but parliament has made a law that if anyone will destroy or harm public property, then he will be arrested and he will be prosecuted in the court of law. So now we are arresting you and now court will punish you. So now what happened, that Mr. A got arrested by the police. Okay, so what I am saying, that they are not enforceable on their own. Okay, but if a law is made, okay, if a law is made after getting inspiration from a fundamental duty, then they can be enforceable in the court of law. So I think that with the help of this example, all of you must have understand that what is the meaning of the enforceability of fundamental duties. So friends, now let us discuss about all the fundamental duties one by one. So here I have written Article 51 capital A. So the title of Article 51 capital A is Fundamental Duties. Okay. Now then Article 51 capital A says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India. Okay. So what conclusion can we draw from this line? So from this line we can draw a conclusion that fundamental rights, fundamental duties, okay, fundamental duties are only for the citizens of India. Okay, they are not for any foreigner. As we are the citizen of India, so these duties are for us. These duties are for the citizens of India. Okay, so the first line says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India. Okay, so as we are the citizens of India, so these are our duties also. Okay, and after that, all the duties are given in the subsequent clauses. Okay, for example, this is the first duty given under clause A. So now let us read that what the first duty is saying. So the first duty is saying that to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. Now what does it mean? Okay, so this first duty means, so first of all it is written in the first duty that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the constitution. Okay, now the meaning of this line is that if you are a citizen of India, then it is your duty to follow the provisions of the constitution. Then it is your duty to obey the provisions of the constitution. Okay, so friends, in the previous classes I have taught you the constitution of India in a very detailed manner. Okay, so now all of you know that what the constitution of India is, and you know that what are the provisions of the constitution. So now it is your duty to follow, to obey the provisions of the constitution. For example, friends, we know that Article 17 of the Indian Constitution is abolition of untouchability. Okay, so actually Article 17 says that you should not practice untouchability in any form. So what is Article 17? So roughly I am telling you, so in the previous classes I taught you Article 17 in a very detailed manner. So now for example I am telling you that Article 17 is abolition of untouchability. So now as this is the provision of our constitution, so now this is the duty of every citizen of India to obey this provision of the constitution. Okay, so first of all we should try everything to abolish untouchability, and moreover any citizen of India should not practice untouchability. Okay, and friends, as this is a fundamental right, so this is legally enforceable. Okay, but I am explaining you in the context of fundamental duties, that as this is the provision of our constitution, abolition of untouchability. So now this is the duty, this is the fundamental duty of every citizen of India to abolish untouchability. Okay, now after that it is written that and respect its ideals and institutions. Now what does it mean to respect its ideals and institutions? So it means that we the citizens of India, we have to respect all the ideals, all the norms which are set by the Constitution of India. Similarly, we have to respect all the institutions which are established by the Constitution of India. For example, friends, Parliament is an institution which is actually established by the Institution of India, Constitution of India. So we should respect the Parliament of India. Okay, so the meaning of the next line is that all the citizens of India should respect all the ideals which are set by the Constitution of India and all the institutions which are established by the Constitution of India. Okay, now further it is saying that all the citizens of India should respect the national flag. Okay, so we know that Tiranga Jhanda is our national flag. So it is our duty to respect our national flag. and we have to respect our national anthem. So we all know that Jan Gan Man is our national anthem. So this is our duty to respect national anthem. Okay, so these all duties are given by the clause A of fundamental duties to all the citizens of India. Now let's move forward. Now friends, after this, let us read that what is our second fundamental duty. Okay, so this second fundamental duty is actually given in the clause B of article 51 capital A. Okay, so now we will say that it shall be the duty of every Indian citizen to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. Now what does it mean? So friends, actually all of us know that before 15th of August 1947, India was a colony of Britishers. Okay, so it means that India was under the British rule. On 15th of August 1947, India got independence from the British rule. Okay, but if we talk of the period before 15th August 1947, means if we are talking of the period when India was under the British rule, so at that point of time, what happened? That people of India wanted freedom. Okay, all sections of people of India wanted freedom from British rule. Okay, and so what happened that people of India struggled against the British government in many ways. For example, there were many movements. Okay, there were many movements which were broke out during that period against the British government. Okay, now how these movements break out? For example, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, quit India movement. Okay, so how these movements broke out? So actually there were some ideals, there was a thought. Okay, there were some ideals, there was a thought in the minds of people which actually inspired them to start a nationwide struggle for freedom against the Britishers. Okay, so what happened that there were some ideals, there were some thoughts. Okay, there was actually an ideology which actually inspired the people to start a nationwide struggle for freedom against the Britishers. Okay, and due to that national struggle, we actually got the independence on 15th of August 1947. So now what this second fundamental duty is saying, that now this is the duty of every citizen of India to cherish and to follow these noble ideals which actually inspired the people of India for doing national struggle for freedom. Okay, so now it is our duty to keep these ideals, to keep these thoughts in our heart and mind. So this is the meaning of second fundamental duty. Now friends, the third fundamental duty is given in the clause C of article 51 capital A. So what is written here, let's try to read. So it says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Okay, so now what does it mean? So it means that as all of us are the citizens of India, so now it is our duty to protect the sovereignty of India. Now what is the meaning of sovereignty? So in the previous classes, I have explained you the meaning of sovereignty in a very detailed manner. So sovereignty basically means that the government of the country is independent. The government of the country is supreme. And the government of the country is independent in its decision making internally as well as externally. Okay, so what is sovereignty? So sovereignty means that the government of the country is independent in its decision making internally as well as externally. No internal power or external power can interfere in the decision making of government of India. Okay, so this is our duty to protect the sovereignty of the country. Okay, now after that, it is also our duty to protect the unity and integrity of India. Okay, so now this is our duty to protect the unity and integrity of India. Now if you want to learn the meaning of unity and integrity, so in the previous classes I have explained you the meaning of unity and integrity in a very detailed manner. So kindly refer the class in which I taught you about the preamble. In that class I taught you about the meaning of unity and integrity in a detailed manner. Now let's move forward. Now friends, after this, the fourth fundamental duty is given under clause D of article 51 capital A. So now let's read what it is saying. Okay, so now friends, Okay, so now it says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to defend the country and render national services when called upon to do so. Now, what does it mean? So, friends, now as all of us are the citizens of India, so it is our duty to defend our country. Defend our country means it is our duty to protect our country from any threat, whether that threat is external threat or that threat is internal threat. It is our duty to protect the country against all the threats. Okay. Moreover, it is our duty to render national service when called upon to do so. Now, what does it mean? So, let's suppose if India is in a war with any other country. Okay. Then, friends, let's suppose government of India needs you. Government of India needs people to fight for India. So if government of India calls you that now it is your turn to fight for your country, then it is your fundamental duty to give national services when government will call you to do that. Okay, so now it is the duty of every citizen of India to defend the country and to give national services when you are called upon to provide them. Now let's move forward. Now friends, after this, the fifth fundamental duty is given in clause E of article 51 capital A. So now let's read that what this duty is saying. So actually it has two parts. So till here there is first part and then there is second part. So first of all we will read the first part. So to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic and regional or sectional diversities. Now what does it mean? So friends, I will explain you this with the help of an example. So we know that Indian society is very diverse. Okay, Indian society is very diverse. Okay, there are the people of many religions. Okay, people follow different religions. People speak different languages. People lives in different regions. Okay, so let's suppose there are four religions followed by the people. Okay, so I am not taking the name of any religion. I am just taking hypothetical names. So let's suppose this is religion A, religion B, religion C and religion D. Okay, now let's suppose people speak let's suppose four types of languages: language E, language F, language G and language H. Okay, and let's suppose that people are from 5 different regions. Okay, now these 5 different regions can be region P, region Q, region R, region S and region T. Okay, so now there are chances that people can fight with each other over these regional diversities. Why? Because if people will live in different regions, in different areas, then definitely they will have cultural differences. Differences in the way they wear clothes, differences in the way they eat food. Okay, similar to that, these were served. Okay, now if people follow 4 different religions, so there are the chances that these people can say that my religion is the best, and these people can force the people of other religion to join their religion. Okay, and there are very high chances that these people can fight with each other for religion. Similarly, if people speak 4 different languages, so the people of every language can say that my language is best, and they can fight with each other for their language. So now what this fifth fundamental duty is saying? So this fifth fundamental duty is saying that if you are a citizen of India, okay, if you are a citizen of India, then it is our duty to transcend the boundaries of religion, transcend the boundaries of language, transcend the boundaries of region or section. Okay, now transcend basically means to go beyond the limit, to go beyond something. Okay, now what does it mean? So it means that this article 51 capital A clause E is giving direction to the people of India, to the citizens of India. Okay, to the citizens of India, that they must go beyond the boundaries of religion. They should forget that to which religion they belong. They should only remember that they are the citizens of India. The people of India should go beyond the boundaries of language. Means they should forget that to what language they speak. They should only remember that they are the citizens of India. The this article is giving instructions to the citizens of India that the citizens of India should go beyond the boundaries of reasons. Means the people of India should forget that in which region they are living, whether they are living in south or they are living in north, whether they belong to Bundelkhand or they belong to Malwa. Okay, so they should forget that in which region they are living. They should only remember that they are the citizens of India. So basically this article is giving instructions to the citizens of India that you should forget all the boundaries. You should go beyond all the boundaries. Just try to open your wings and try to fly over all the boundaries which are creating differences amongst the citizens of India. So just open your wings and fly over these boundaries. Okay, so you should transcend all these boundaries and you should only remember one thing, that you are the citizen of India. And when you will do so, then what will happen? Then the harmony will come in the society. Okay, so when you will do all these things, then what will happen? Then when you will remember that you are the citizen of India, then what will happen? That there will be harmony in the society and there will be a spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India. All the people of India will think that all the citizens of India are brother. All the citizens of India are brothers and sisters. Okay, so we will think that we are living like brothers and sisters. Okay, there is no difference. There is no religious difference. Okay, we have to accept that we belong to different religions, but at the same time we also have to accept that we should not fight over religion. We should only think that we are identified by the same constitution. We should also think that we all are citizens of India. India is our country. So whether you belong to any religion, whether you speak any language, whether you belong to any region, so forget all these boundaries and shake hand with each other and only think that you are the citizen of India. Only think that you are the citizen of India. So you will have only one identity, that you are the citizen of India. And when you will have only one identity, that you are the citizen of India, then what will happen? That there will be a spirit of common brotherhood. Means all the people will live like brothers and sisters, and then there will be no fights in the society. There will be all around harmony in the society. Okay, so this is the first part. Now what is the second part? So the second part is saying that to renounce the practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Okay, so renounce means actually to leave. Okay, so this article is giving instruction to the citizens of India that kindly leave all the practices, okay, which are actually not good for the dignity of women, which are not good for the respect of women, which are not good for the dignity of women. Okay, for example, earlier it was thought that women should live in the four walls of the house. Women should not go outside for work. But now this article is giving instructions to the citizens of India that leave this practice, leave this thinking, renounce this thinking, okay, and let women go outside and work outside with men. Okay, so and when women will go outside and work outside with men, then what will happen? That their dignity will increase. So we have to leave all the practices, we have to leave all the thinking which are not good for the dignity of women. Now friends, after this, the sixth fundamental duty is given in clause F of article 51 capital A. So now let's read that what this fundamental duty is saying. So it is saying that to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Now what does it mean? So actually all of us knows the culture of India is unique. The culture of India is actually composite. Okay, composite means it has many elements in it. It is a collection of many elements. It is a collection of many things. Okay, so the culture of India is composite. The culture of India is unique. Okay, the culture of India is very rich. So this fundamental duty is actually giving instructions to the citizens of India that first of all value your culture. Okay, value of culture means you know that your culture is actually priceless. Okay, your culture is priceless. So just value your culture and moreover preserve your culture. Preserve your culture means protect your culture. Okay, so this fundamental duty is giving instructions to the citizens of India to value and to preserve their culture. So this is the simple meaning of this fundamental duty. Now friends, after this, the seventh fundamental duty is given under clause G of article 51 capital A. So now let's try to read that what this is saying. So this says that to protect and improve natural environment including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Now what does it mean? So first of all, it is saying that it is the duty of every citizen of India to protect and to improve natural environment. Okay, means what is our duty? Our duty is to protect, means to safeguard. Okay, our duty is to protect the natural environment. For example, if you see somebody cutting the trees, then you should stop him that please do not cut the trees, it will harm our environment. Okay, and then it is our duty to improve the natural environment. So how will you improve the natural environment? So for example, you can plant new trees. Okay, so if there will be more trees, so there will be what will happen, that the environment will improve. Okay, so first of all you have to protect your environment, then you have to improve your environment. Okay, now in the natural environment what will be included? So forests. Okay, so it means that you have to protect and improve the forests. Lakes, so you have to protect your lakes. How will you protect the lakes and rivers? So for example, you should not throw the garbage in the lakes and rivers. You should not contaminate the water of lakes and rivers. Okay, and wildlife. Okay, means we have to also protect the wildlife. Okay, now then it is saying then and to have compassion for living creatures. So compassion basically means kindness. Okay, so means it is the duty of every citizen of India to have kindness towards all the living organisms, to have kindness towards all the living creatures. Okay, now friends, the next fundamental duty means the 8th fundamental duty is given in clause H of article 51 capital A. So it is saying that to develop scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform. Means it is the duty of every citizen of India to develop scientific temper, to develop humanism. Okay, now we all know that what is humanism. Now what is this scientific temper? So scientific temper basically means that you should not accept anything, okay, without doing inquiry. Okay, if anybody is telling you something, then first of all ask question. Okay, think about it. Do not accept it as it is. Think about it. More and more think about it. Examine it. Check for all the facts and then accept it. Okay, so moreover, the scientific temper basically means that it is a open-minded temper. Okay, so scientific temper means it is a modest and open-minded temper. So it basically means a temper which is ever ready to welcome new light, which is ever ready to welcome new knowledge, new experiments. Okay, so what is scientific temper? So scientific tempers is a modest, open-minded temper, a temper which is always ready to welcome new light, which is always ready to welcome new knowledge, which is always ready for new experiments. And even when their results are unfavorable to preconceived opinions and long cherished theories. Okay, so this type of temper is called as scientific temper. So it is basically a open-minded temper where you are ready for new knowledge, you are ready for new experiments, you are ready to explore yourself for new things. But do remember that you are not accepting anything as it is. First of all, you will examine it. First of all, you will check it. And when you will find it correct, then only you will accept it. Okay. And this is actually the spirit of inquiry. So spirit of inquiry also means that you have to inquire about each and everything. Okay. If anybody is telling you something, don't accept it that it is. Just examine that whether it is correct or not. Okay, moreover, we have to try to do reforms in the society. Okay, so actually this 8th fundamental duty is giving instructions to the citizens of India that all the citizens of India should try to develop scientific temper in them. Okay, now I have explained you what is scientific temper. We should develop humanism in them. We should develop humanism in ourselves. Okay, and you know what is humanism. And moreover, we should develop the spirit of inquiry and reform. So inquiry is reform means you are inquiring about new things. Okay, you are questioning, you are examining the things. Okay, and moreover, you are open to all the reforms. You are not so conservative. You are open to reforms. Okay, so this is the broad meaning of this fundamental duty. Now friends, after this, the ninth fundamental duty is given under clause I of article 51 capital A. So it says that to safeguard public property and to abjure violence. Okay. Now safeguarding public property means we know that, for example, street lights is a public property, road is a public property, any dam is a public property. Okay. Or for example, public transport, for example, public buses, trains, they are also public property. So what is our duty? Our duty is to safeguard this public property, means to protect this public property and to not harm this public property. Moreover, then it is saying to abjure violence. So abjure basically means to leave the violence, okay, or to accept the non-violence. We know that our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi, he was a great promoter of non-violence. So we should also accept the non-violence. So this is this ninth fundamental duty. Now friends, here you have to remember one thing, that a law is also made after getting inspiration from this fundamental duty. So it means that if you will do violence or if you will harm the public property, then you will be prosecuted under law. Then you will be punished. Okay, so remember this. Now friends, after this, the 10th fundamental duty is given under clause J of article 51 capital A. So it says that to strive towards excellence in all the spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. Now what does it mean? So it basically means that definitely people do different works. Okay, so it basically means that if a person is doing any work, whether he is doing that work individually or he is doing that work collectively, okay, means whether an activity is an individual activity or a activity is a collective activity. For example, if I am teaching you, so this is a individual activity. Okay, and for example, if 10 friends, they have decided to do a new business, so this is a collective activity. Let's suppose they are doing the business of import and export of things, then this is a collective activity. Okay, so what this is saying, so this fundamental duty is saying that whether you are doing any individual activity or doing any collective activity, just try to achieve excellence in that. Means do it so perfectly that you can excel in that, you can achieve excellence in that, you can give outstanding results in that activity. Okay, and when you will give outstanding results in any activity, when you will have expertise in any activity, then what will happen, that then our nation will rise to the higher levels of endeavor and achievement. Okay, means our nation will get more and more achievements, our nation will progress, our nation will develop. Okay, so this is the 10th fundamental duty, to strive towards excellence in all the spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to the higher levels of endeavor and achievement. Now friends, after this, the 11th fundamental duty is given under clause K of article 51 capital A. Now this fundamental duty was actually added by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002. Okay, so now this says that one who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or as the case may be, ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. Now what does it mean? So this is written in a complicated language. So now let me simplify it for you. So this simply wants to say that if anybody is a parent or a guardian, okay, so let's suppose that there is a couple, Mr. A and Mrs. A. Okay, so this is a couple and this couple is having a child. Now let's suppose that the name of their child is B. Okay, so this is the name of child. So now this is the duty of Mr. and Mrs. A to send their child B to school if his age is between 6 to 14 years. Okay, so it means that it is the fundamental duty of all the parents or guardians to send their children to school if their age is between 6 to 14 years. Okay, and definitely government is providing free education, but the free education provided by the government will only be useful if the parents will send their children to school. So this is the fundamental duty, that it is the duty of all the parents and guardians to send their children to school whose age is between 6 to 14 years. Okay, so this is this 11th fundamental duty. So friends, with this, the topic of fundamental duties is now completed. So friends, that's all for today. I hope that all of you must have enjoyed the lecture, and if you have enjoyed the lecture, then please like the video, comment, subscribe the channel, press the bell icon and select all. Now we will meet in next class with a fresh topic. Till then, stay indoors, stay healthy, take care of yourself. Thank you.